great. I think we're recording, so we're going to get going. Again, as Naomi said, this is a small group, so if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll also pause a couple of times for questions. Just want to start by saying a mazel tov and congratulations for continuing to partnering with JTFN to bring Teen Philanthropy to your camp for this summer. You can see on the screen now we have a great group of camps that are, this is just the camps that are on this call right now. We're working with 18 camps in total in the same sort of way working with you for a second summer to continue the great work that we're building upon from last summer. And thinking about the personal and the Jewish values that are related to giving, develop your team's funding priorities, reviewing grant proposals, making those site visits, making a consensus-based decision. We're really excited to continue to do this work with you. And as you can see on the screen here, we have one new camp that's actually joining us for the call, Camp Inc., which is a new camp starting their first summer. I think Josh is going to be joining us soon from Camp Inc. But we have an exciting mix. We have a great mix of people on the phone today, so we're going to actually take a second and do some introductions. I will call you by camp, and if you will be willing to answer a couple of introductory questions. Say your name and your professional title or your job at camp and where your camp is located, where you're calling in from today, your previous experience with your Teen Foundation or Teen Philanthropy, because we do have some people that are more familiar and less familiar, and then one thing you're looking forward to this summer, which may or may not be related to your Teen Foundation. So let's hear first from Camp Livingston.
All right. So my name's Aaron Slavin, and I'm with Camp Livingston. I'm the assistant director at Livingston, which the camp is located in southeastern Indiana, a little town called Bennington. I'm calling in today from Cincinnati, Ohio, which is where our off-season offices are. And last year was our first year doing a Teen Foundation, and I was really happy with everything. I know our kids especially enjoyed the site visits. And most looking forward to this summer. We ordered one of the new activities for this summer are paddle boards that we ordered for our lake. So I'm really looking forward to getting some cool pictures of our campers out on those and getting out there myself.
Great. Sounds fun. Fantastic. Can we hear from Capital Camps?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good. I muted myself and I couldn't remember the command to unmute. Okay, well my name is Stacy.
So you have them.
Thanks. My name is Stacy. I am one of the assistant directors at Capital Camp. And our camp is in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, but I am calling you from Rockville, Maryland, which is a suburb of the Washington, D.C. area. This is our second year doing this program. And we had a great experience last year doing it with our CITs, and we are going to be doing the program again with that group of people, different group of people but same age. And this summer I'm looking forward to this not being my first summer and having learned everything that I have learned from just 1 year. I'm really looking forward to going into the summer with a lot more knowledge.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
And can we hear next from B'nai B'rith Camp in Oregon? Oh, I sort of gave that away. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Michelle Copeland. I'm the executive director of B'nai B'rith Camp in Oregon. We are located actually on the Oregon coast, so about 2 miles away from the ocean. I'm actually calling in today from Beaverton, which is home of Nike and home of BB Camp, which is great. Our previous experience with our Teen Foundation was just this last summer, of course, and I am, as an executive director, do a lot of fundraising and a lot of development work, so it's one of my major interests in making sure that Jewish camping continues to be sustainable, and so doing the Teen Philanthropy program is just one more thing that I love, which has been fabulous. And I guess the last thing I'm looking forward to this summer, to be quite frank, is to engage even more donors at camp to see the great things that we are doing to make kids have a better experience for children. So that's what I got for you.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Can I hear from Cam Assad?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Stu.
Perfect. No, so sorry, I'm getting over a case of bronchitis, so I'm coughing a little bit. But yeah, so Camp Massad, we're located in Saint-Agathe, Quebec, about an hour away from Montreal. I'm calling from Montreal, where our snow is melting very, very slowly over here. We participated in the program last summer. So that's our previous experience. And we're actually looking forward this summer to using the JTFN program to be one of the pillars of our revamped Senior CIT Leadership Development Program, where we're putting an added emphasis on training future camp staff and future camp leaders. And all of our programming has been reshaped with the emphasis of really giving the kids the tools that they'll need to eventually take care of other kids.
Wonderful. Great. Thanks, Stu. Who do we have calling in from Camp Gindling Hilltop Camp?
Hi, this is Andrea Cohen, and our camp is located in Malibu, California, and I am calling you today from Scottsdale, Arizona. I am the resident director of Gindling Hilltop Camp during the summers, and during the school year, I am the Youth Philanthropy Director at the Jewish Community Foundation of Greater Phoenix. Last year was our first summer running a teen philanthropy at camp, and I have been the Youth Philanthropy Director at the Jewish Community Foundation for the past 8 years, and I started our teen philanthropy program here. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to this summer is actually going on the site visits with the teens.
Great. Great. Thanks for calling in, Andrea. And I think last is Eric from Berkshire Hills.
Yeah, hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. So Eric Miller from Berkshire Hills. I'm the Assistant Children's Camp Director for camp. We're located in Copake, New York, so about 2 hours north of New York City. And I'm actually calling from the city today because our winter office is down there. We did the program last year through the Jewish Teen Funders Network. So that was my experience doing that. We did it with our LITs last summer. And one of the things I'm most looking forward to going into this summer is sort of having navigated the first year and sort of kind of figured out the best way to sort of utilize the program and sort of where we hit the road bumps and all that good stuff. I'm looking forward to actually having a second go at it and being able to have it run, hopefully to use it even more effectively this year for our LITs.
Great. Thank you. Do we have anyone else on the call that we didn't get to? Okay, great. So Naomi and I actually also add our names to the mix. Naomi, will you go first?
Sure. So I'm Naomi Scott-Brichter, and I'm the Program Associate at the Jewish Teen Funders Network. We are located in New York City. And today, I believe, is actually my 3-year anniversary of working with teen foundations, which I started 3 years ago at JTFN. And one thing I'm looking forward to this summer is the Jewish Teen Philanthropy Summit, which we are hosting in the beginning of the summer, June 9th to 10th. And one of our camp trainings for educators is going to be at the end of the summit on June 10th, so I hope that I will meet some of your educators there. Andrew, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Andrew Paul. Great to be talking to everyone today. I'm calling in from our office in New York, about 5 feet from where Naomi is sitting, and very excited to be working with all these camps this summer. I've been at JTFN for about 9 months, and I started right in mid-June, so I was sort of really thrown into working with all the camps last summer pretty quickly, and I'm really excited to sort of see this process through, starting with, in many ways, today's orientation. So here's a couple of things that we're going to accomplish. We're going to start off by going through a timeline for your Teen Foundation, specifically for you as the administrator, as the camp director or assistant director, about what you should be thinking about before, during, and after the summer. We're going to discuss some tips for selecting the summer educator who should be running this program on the ground with your teens, a quick review of the Teen Foundation program goals, suggested for scheduling this program into your camp calendar, which I think is a really important part to think about before the summer gets going. We have a couple of notes on grant making and working with nonprofits, and we're going to talk about tips for fundraising and raising up your grant making pool so your teens will have some more money to allocate to those nonprofits. again, if you do have questions, we'll take a pause a couple of times, but you can also post them right in the chat.
I'll just give you numbers. Oh, it'll just be numbers.
So before we jump in,
this is what I thought.
I want to take a moment to share some really encouraging statistics from last summer's evaluation that get to the core of why we do this work. And I want to say thank you to those who participated, I think all of you, in last summer's evaluation, which led to these results. So last summer we had 39 camps, more than 1,000 campers working on this, doing these programs, and together they gave away $47,000 in grants to nonprofit organizations. We learned from our survey results that 90% of camp directors, many of you hopefully, felt that the program had a positive impact on the overall camp experience, that 86% of campers felt that the program influenced their sense of responsibility to Jews around the world. So we are accomplishing that goal. 81% of campers also felt that the program increased their connection to their Jewish values, such as tikkun olam, tzedakah, and philanthropy. And lastly, 84% of directors, also you folks, felt the program strengthened your relationship between camps and local organizations. And we're going to talk about ways to make sure that is how this program impacts your relationships in the community a little later on. So those are some really positive results to keep in mind.
Great. Thanks, Naomi. Like I said, we're going to be sending these slides out afterwards, and these are 3 great slides for you to reference back to. Here are some things as the administrator that you should keep in mind before camp started. This is a suggested timeline based upon when specifically your camp meets and when the staff will get there, but going through the month, these are things to keep in mind. In April, this orientation call, which you are all successfully on, so mazel tov. Last week, I sent out the grant agreement, which is the partnership between your camp and Jewish Teen Funders Network, and ultimately our parent organization, the Jewish Funders Network. And many of you have already gotten that back to me, which is great. And if you haven't, you have till the end of this month, April 30th. Again, if you have already selected who's going to run this program, as I know some of you have, that's great. But selecting your summer educator is a really big step. And having them sign up for one of 4 training options online. So they should do that online. We'll talk more a little bit about the summer educator soon. In May, your summer educator will attend the training, and then you and the summer educator are going to finalize the schedule within the camp calendar. Again, we'll touch on that. Your summer educator should start to contact local nonprofits, and then we, JTFN, are going to send out some national and international Jewish serving organizations and some grant proposals from them. We're going to touch upon that a lot more later, so that's a new element that we'll come back to. Then in June, when camp kicks off for most of the camps we work with, the summer educator should train other staff that are going to be working and helping with this program, whether it's other counselors, other education staff. Then they start leading the teen foundations once those campers come to camp, confirm the site visits with the nonprofits, and then does a consultant check-in with Naomi and I. We are really hoping to, based upon feedback we heard, be more supportive and touch base more regularly with your summer educators. In July, once the program is really underway, arranging the site visits, and that actually might be where you as the administrator come in with transportation needs. We also want the summer educator to think about writing a blog post, either that person or one of your campers. Continue to check in with JTFN, and then ultimately decide where the grants are awarded. Then as the summer wraps up, in August, the summer educator should inform all nonprofits of their grant status. We're going to come back to that because that's a really key point. Continue to work on a blog post or article. And then the administrator is going to issue the grant checks to the nonprofits and make copies to send to JTFN. This is the same process as last summer, that the grants to the camps are actually going to come from the camps up front, and then you'll receive the reimbursement $1,000 sort of once we have the grant report and copies of those checks, which are due by September 19th. And then we're going to have debrief phone calls with your summer educator once the summer is over. So I know that was a lot of info really fast, but this is, again, just a good thing to have printed out on your desk just so you can keep aware of the timeline and that everything is sort of moving forward. Okay. we're going to go to the next section and then take questions, and we're going to actually talk a little bit about selecting your summer educator. A lot of people have said that instead of us saying it should be this staff person, the education director running this program, knowing your camp and ultimately you deciding who's going to run this program is what makes it most successful. You as camps know your camp culture much stronger than we do. So we're actually going to hear from Stacy at Capital Camps about their summer educator who's returning for a second summer and what has made her such a great educator for this program. Stacy. Do we have Stacy? She might. Hi, Stacy, you there? She may be having some challenges with the muting and unmuting.
Wait, so I've unmuted everyone, so we should be able to hear you, Stacey. Try again.
Hello.
Oh, now we're hearing you. There you go.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
Our summer educator is actually our year-round director of development who has a lot of experience at camp, so we're really lucky. She was assistant director for a little while, and she's been a part of our camp community for a really long time. And she was really successful with our campers last summer just because she has that camping background and that development background, and so it was really just a natural fit for her to be the person who was summer educator. And she is coming back again this year. And the director of the CIT program, who is also returning for a second summer in that role, which is where we run the Camp Philanthropy program, she is getting trained as a summer educator as well because our group is so big that we need to run 2 groups. But I don't really know what kind of specifics you guys are really looking for, but I think it's more that we're just really lucky that we have somebody with both the skills as a development director and with knowledge of not just camp but our specific camp to help us run this program.
Great, perfect. Thanks, Stacy. You touched on exactly what we were going to talk about, which is sort of selecting the person that sort of has essential skills. And ultimately, if the person who led it last summer is a great fit, then maybe that person should come back and do it again. Facilitating this program for a second time, we've heard, tends to be easier, and they're more familiar with the overall Teen Foundation process. Some examples of people who have led this program at other camps are unit or division heads or CIT directors, someone who's a program director, either someone in the development office, and then possibly an education specialist. And we like to see this sort of triple Venn diagram intersection of knowledge of Jewish texts and values, the ability to facilitate with groups of teens, which especially those sort of challenging discussions that come at the end, and then an understanding of grant making and the nonprofit world, where these sort of intersections are, where the yellow faces that you're seeing, if you can have someone on your staff that is in one of those 3 spots, that's wonderful, and we can help that person think about where could they sort of improve their knowledge. And then ultimately, if you have someone dead center in the bullseye, that's best. Another thing that you can think about doing is having a guest facilitator join you for some of the sessions. So if you have someone who's very skilled at integrating Jewish text into whatever you're doing, or someone more familiar with the grant-making portion, to have them come in for sessions and to teach those teens. And we've seen this model used at camps, and it's been very successful. And I was actually going to pose a question to the group if any of you have had people come in alongside the summer educator to lead portions of this program. So if you have, feel free to share.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, I see something here. What are you?
This is Andrea, and because of my background in youth philanthropy, I came in and I did a couple of sessions with the kids on the grant making, the specifics of the process, and that was helpful to have a different voice that wasn't always in the room with them.
Great. Just sort of mixing up the leadership who's facilitating can also be really beneficial for teens. Great. Well, that's just something to keep in mind about who else can you sort of bring into the mix. And then, again, as I'm going to reiterate, on this portion, we have our summer educator trainings. We have 4 of them coming up. 2 are through webinar on Sunday, May 4th, and Thursday, May 15th. We also have a training for summer educators taking place at the Cornerstone Seminar, the Foundation for Jewish Camps Seminar, taking place at Capitol Camps. I have emailed this information a couple of times because we really want to make sure that if you have staff that are going to be working with the Teen Foundation that are going to be at Cornerstone, we would love for them to join us in person. It's really just key that we know sooner so that we can sort of work with our contacts at the Foundation for Jewish Camps and the travel agency they work with to arrange proper flight times so that you can stay for the training, because it immediately follows the departure of everyone else from Cornerstone. Feel free to be in touch with me if you want to work through that. And then, as Naomi mentioned, we have our Jewish Teen Philanthropy Summit here in New York City in June 10th, which is a Tuesday. The summit ends at 3:30, and then immediately after we're going to be having a training for summer educators, and we actually invite them to come for the whole day free of charge. So again, be in touch with me if you are interested in having your summer educator or you attend one of these in-person trainings. I want to just take a second to pause for if anybody has any quick questions.
I'd like to just hop in and say that I just joined the conversation. It's Guy from Camp Kinneret Billowee. I'm sorry I'm late.
Oh, hi Guy. Not a problem. If you can stay on just a little bit after, I can fill you in on a couple of things.
Sure, that'll be great. Thank you.
Great.
All right. So just a second call. Does anyone have any questions before we go on? Okay. Let us know in the chat if anything comes up for you. So before we move on to discussing the schedule, I just want to briefly review the program goals that we want to accomplish through Teen Foundation at your camp. So this program teaches basic philanthropic principles and giving with Jewish values, and really helps to create a culture of giving at your camp. And we want to focus on that piece for a minute. We really believe that teens who participate in this program will grow to give back to the Jewish community, and in general to causes in the world. And we can only assume that by participating in this program at camp, if they've had a positive experience in your camp over the years, your camp will be one of the places where they give back. So that's as many of you are in the role of fundraising, so that's an important thing to keep in mind about creating this culture at your camp. We also believe that this program creates a forum to explore personal values around giving, to really influence teens' identity, and it helps them develop as leaders, develop teamwork skills and group decision-making skills, which we know are really important in the world. So how do we do all this? All these goals are accomplished through the 15-hour curriculum that's divided across the 8 tasks of the program guide. So you can take a look, and you probably remember seeing this from last year or whatever interaction you have with the curriculum. We have these 8 tasks that are broken down, that break down the different components of the curriculum. And in our experience, we've seen that you really need 15 hours to cover all of the material and to accomplish all of those goals we just went over thoroughly. But the beauty of the program is that you can allocate those 15 hours in whatever way works best for your camp and for your teens. So the most important thing, and the thing we hear most from camps, is that when we ask the question, what was challenging about this program, it's that it was hard to fit it into our schedule. So what we recommend is that you really make sure in advance of the summer that you've decided where this is going to happen. The same way you'd schedule any other activities like sports into your camp schedule, you schedule your Teen Foundation time into your schedule, and then you will know that it's going to have the time to happen. So we've seen a lot of different ways that camps have scheduled that. Some have done the whole program in 2 to 3 seminar type days. Others devote 1 hour each day, and basically anything in between. So we encourage you as administrators to help your staff decide what will work best in your setting and to make sure those decisions, again, are made before the summer begins. So we're going to take a quick poll now. Let us know what you think you're planning for the summer, how you're going to break down those hours. You can fill out the poll that's on the screen.
Okay. A couple more people to fill out the poll.
So hopefully you're all seeing the results. Can someone just tell me, do you see the results?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh, great.
If you filled it out, you should be able to see them. So I see that we have a variety of responses. It seemed like most popular idea is 2 to 4 times a week. Can anyone just share for a minute if you had a certain plan last year and your plan is the same, why that is, or if you decide to tweak it based on how it fit, just so we can hear some other people's experience. Can I have anyone to share that? Again, if you need to unmute yourself, you can press *6.
Last year, we actually tried doing it once a week, and we ran into problems with all of the larger camp-wide activities that we weren't as organized as we probably should have been with the program. So this year we're planning on doing it 2 to 4 times a week, so that in case something falls through the cracks, we know that the kids have the time that they need.
Great. Who was that? Sorry. Who was just speaking?
That was Stu in Montreal.
Great. Thanks, Stu. But I think that's a perfect example. So better to kind of over-plan in terms of time than to underplan. We know at camp that a lot of different things come up. There's always a special day. There's, Maccabia and the trip. And so thanks for sharing that. And I hope everyone kind of keeps that mindset in mind as you're making your plans.
This is Andrea from Hilltop, and what we did last year, we had the grant 2 years ago, and we weren't able to plan well enough for it to actually execute and even start it that summer. So last year before the summer, we went through our calendar and we scheduled all the session dates before the summer started. And the site visit day actually became a really big part of the experience. And we did some service at the site visits as well, which the teens really enjoyed. But actually planning it out ahead of time was helpful because our camp is only a 26-day session. And so we really have to make sure that we have it planned out or we lose the dates.
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, especially if your camp has a short session, it's especially important. And also what I heard you mention is site visits. And I think that getting kids out of camp can be challenging. So making sure you decide when that's going to happen before the summer is especially important. I'm glad you brought up that point. Thanks, Andrea.
Great. Thank you. We're going to now talk about grant making and working with the nonprofits. As I said on the timeline, in early May or even late April, the summer educator should start contacting the local nonprofits. A good rule of thumb is about a month before he or she arrives at camp that they should start to reach out to the nonprofits. And it's okay to reconnect with people you connected with last summer. As the administrator, you really need to make sure that this person is on top of this and that that they are creating the request for proposals specific to your camp, of which a sample is included in the program guide. I think many camps just used that sample last year, so that's a great place for the summer educator to start. And once the Teen Foundation has the grant proposals back in, they must review at least 3 of them from the local nonprofits and conduct 2 site visits during the summer. And as I said earlier, as the administrator, you may be involved in arranging transportation for these site visits, so it's really important to connect with your summer educator and sort of help them succeed in this process. And then I want to talk about something new that is a part of the program this summer. Coming up in May, us at JTFN are going to be sending to you and to your summer educators a new offering. We're still sort of finalizing the specifics, but JTFN will be providing each camp with 2 or 3 grant proposals from nationally and internationally serving Jewish nonprofit organizations. These are in addition to the 3 local grant proposals that your summer educator will solicit and receive. And the 2 site visits are still required to those local nonprofits. This is just in addition. And the reason for this is that we really want teens to start having this conversation about whether or not they should allocate their funds to Jewish organizations or to non-sectarian organizations. We heard from many camps last summer that this is an important conversation that just didn't happen because a lot of the Jewish nonprofits are not within site visit distance of your camp. So we really want that decision to be tackled by these teens. We also hope that it encourages the conversation about giving locally versus giving nationally or internationally and sort of where their priorities are geographically. So if your teens review these grant proposals, these what we're calling Jewish national or international grant proposals, in addition to your local ones, and they do feel that they want to think about giving their money to these national organizations, the summer educator will arrange either a phone call or a Skype visit with a designated staff person that we've worked with at these places. We're still figuring out all of these specifics for the camps and the best way to connect with these beyond these organizations, just beyond the grant proposal. Whether it's a phone call or whether it's Skype, we're determining. But we think this will be a nice addition for the teens to really add to some serious decision making. This is a new piece of the program that we're still determining, but does anybody have any questions at this time on this in particular?
Andrew?
Yeah?
Can you hear me? This is Michelle Copeland.
Hi, Michelle.
So if we wanted to entertain, for instance, Jewish organizations that are local to Oregon but not local to camp, because as we talked about before, local to camp is there's nobody in Lincoln County. Is that an opportunity, or do we have to do it with the national and international ones that you provide?
Well, that's a great question. I think that if the teens are having the debate between giving to a Jewish organization or to a non-sectarian organization, that's what we're focusing on. Okay. And if there happen to be Jewish organizations that you can connect with in the area, then that seems great, and we can talk more about this offline. But I think that's the debate we're really pushing people to have, and we're trying to help organizations do that. You don't have to use these proposals that we send you. We're just an additional option. Naomi, do you want to add anything else to that?
I would just add.
Sorry, go ahead, Naomi.
Oh no, go ahead, Michelle.
I was saying for this second year, I really wanted to add on to the proposals, the Jewish ones here in Oregon, because I think that it would be nice for us to, we haven't even touched the Jewish ones yet here in Oregon as our next step, rather than leaping over our own ones that we need to be committed to here before we go on to national ones.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that our goal in offering these proposals was to add the Jewish for some camps that don't have them locally and to do some of the work for you. So if you have the time in your in gathering proposals to gather from other organizations on top of the local organizations that are options for site visits, you should go ahead and do that. The thing that we care most about is making sure that the teens have 2 site visit experiences and that they have some opportunity, even with organizations that they can't visit because geographic issues, to interact with those. So if you're contacting organizations on your own, hopefully you can still set up a Skype visit or a phone call or at minimum like some kind of email exchange where they get to have an interaction to clarify things about the grant proposals with that nonprofit.
Yeah. I think that's great. One of my big things is that we want to teach Jewish philanthropy, and I want our kids to understand that Jewish philanthropy is also Jewish philanthropy here at home, and it doesn't always have to be elsewhere. We don't have to look away from our own home to figure out that we are doing Jewish philanthropy for our Jewish organizations.
Great.
Important. Thank you.
Important message.
Wonderful. And again, we're still finalizing these details, but we will cover them at length with the summer educators, starting with those trainings in May.
So we also want to take a moment and focus on being responsible grant makers. Because we're teaching teens, it's especially important to be responsible. There are a lot of ways that we can that are kind of integral to the program that we do some due diligence and ask questions to a nonprofit and make site visits to be responsible. But we also need to be responsible in dealing with organizations that we don't end up funding. And so we just here want to mention that it's really important for you as the administrator to make sure that the summer educator follows up with all the nonprofits that they've contacted throughout this whole process. We offer sample grant acceptance and denial letters in the program guide, but it's up to the educator to send those out, to tailor them specifically to your camp, hopefully to include the teens in tailoring those letters, as again, to teach them, to model for them what it is to be responsible to an organization that you've contacted, and then to actually send out those letters in a timely manner. And you might ask, like, why should you care about this as the administrator? We think that this is really important to the reputation of your camp. So we hope, as we've heard from many camp directors and others in administrative positions at camp, that this helps you build relationships with nonprofits in your local community. And so we want to build those relationships, and we want any nonprofit that you come in touch with, even if the teens decide not to fund them, to leave with a good feeling about your camp, because this could open other opportunities for the future for you to work with them. So that's why this is something that we want to mention to you and make sure that you all focus. Thanks. All right. Oh, sorry about that. I think we got ahead of ourselves in there. Okay. So it isn't too early to think about how you can raise your grant-making pool above $1,000 if you want your teams to have more to give away. And as you may be aware, JTFN has decided over the last couple of years that we've been offering 2 years of grants to camps that have qualified. So we can't say exactly what our program is going to look like for next summer, but our assumption is that we'll continue to offer 2 years of grants, which means that all of you will have already received your 2 years of funding from us. And our goal is for your camp to be able to carry this program forward with internal funding or local funding from your donors. So I hope you'll start thinking now about funding opportunities for the future, and I'm happy to talk through some ideas for that during this next year or whenever you have the time, probably not while you're gearing up for camp over the coming months. And I'm also well, in the meantime, let's hear a little bit from Michelle Copland from B'nai B'rith Camp, who can talk about how she's been able to raise funds for this program. Michelle?
Thank you. So the way I look at the Teen Philanthropy program is one more of our, my staff tease me, but I say it's one of our sexy programs. And it's a funny word to use, but really it's like one of those vibrant programs that people are really, it appeals to them. And so this program, along with the other ones that are really appealing, are ones that when I speak to donors, I make sure to talk about it a lot. I talk about the impact of it, and I always like to be able to share a little bit of a story of something that was significant and meaningful that happened with this program. And one of the things that I'd recommend to those of you that are doing fundraising now or to pass along to your development directors or executive directors or whoever's doing that work is to really have this be one of the talking points when you're talking to donors. So I have after this last summer, I was so impressed with what this program did for our kids that I made sure to put it in there was a book called The Catalog of Needs that went out from our community foundation, and I wrote up a whole thing on it and sent it out to them. I also targeted specific donors and talked specifically about this program for those that I knew their interest was teen philanthropy and strengthening our Jewish community. And what came of it is that because of those kinds of activities where I was continually stewarding donors and talking it up, we've been able to raise some more additional funds for this coming summer. And you know, when I talk about the program, I talk about what it is and how it's important. But I also like I mentioned earlier, I like to share a story. And this is a story I actually just shared with Andrew, and he was like, "This is a great story to share." So I'd be happy to tell you that one of the things that happened to me personally is that I had the opportunity this last year to be the educator and the administrator, so I got to see it on both sides. And as the educator, I got a chance to do direct service work with kids, which is obviously my passion as being a summer camp, Jewish camp director for all these years. And I was able to really have an opportunity to work directly with the kids. And one of the boys, as we were all trying to get at the very end of the summer, trying to get the kids on the bus, and we all know how kids never want to get on the bus, and they're all crying and don't want to get on. And we are, as camp directors, are like, "Get on the bus! Get on the bus! We got get them on the bus!" We're freaking out a little bit. And one of the kids gets on the bus, and he turns back around and gets off the bus. I'm like, "No, get on the bus!" And he says to me, "Michelle, I need to tell you just one thing." And he gave me a big hug, and he said, "I'm changed." I was like, "What?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Just get on the bus." He goes, "No, Michelle, I'm changed. I want you to know I'm changed." And I'm like, "Okay." And I took a deep breath. I thought, "Okay, take a moment. This guy's 14-year-old trying to tell you something important to him." So I took a moment, and then what he said was so powerful. He said, "Michelle, I've changed." He said, "The boy I was when I came to camp is not the guy I'm going home. I learned something about philanthropy and about how to give back to my community in ways I never knew before, and I just want to thank you." And he gave me a huge hug and then walked on the bus. And I just sat there dumbfounded and tears running down my cheeks going, "Wow, we really made a difference. Whatever we did this summer, we made a difference, and we made something, a powerful experience for this one boy, and maybe, and I hope for others. And if he takes that lesson on in life and does more with it, I have done my job." And it was just one of those really beautiful moments. And so it was from that moment, after that, after he had said that to me, that I knew that this is a program that we need to continue to do. We need to fundraise for. We need to shout at the top of our lungs about this program, and we need to make sure that this is a sustainable program forever and ever. So it's one that I have really taken on as a champion, and I've spoken to many donors about. And I actually just recently, I just told Andrew this as well. Recently, I've now raised about $6,000 in addition to the JTFN donation the grant we just received for our second year. So altogether, right now, we've got $7,000 to use for our grant-making pool, which is really exciting.
Well, I have chills from that story. I think I'm about to donate to your team foundation. But I think. So I hope that everyone, even if you're not the person working directly with the teams, if you spend time with this program this summer, I think everyone will find a story like that, because I really believe that these are powerful programs. So thank you.
Naomi, you're so welcome. I wanted to share one more thing, is that recently I got a phone call from a mother who said that her son, not the same boy, a different boy, her son had written an essay to get into a program, and the whole essay was about the JTFN program. And she read it to me over the phone, so unfortunately I don't have it to be able to share with you. But she read it over the phone, and it was about how he had learned things and had this meaningful experience, and how just the skills that he learned. And I thought, what an amazing opportunity that we're touching kids in really beautiful ways. So it wasn't just this one child. Now we've got two that I know of, and I assume there's others. So
that's incredible.
Thank you for letting me share
that letter with us when you have the time. So thank you, Michelle. So Michelle gave you some inspirational stories. I also have a list of fundraising approaches to fund your grant-making pool that might be helpful for you to think about, which we'll send to you along with the slides from this call after the call.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. We are running a little bit ahead, which is great. So we're going to take the time to sort of open it up to any questions. If you have questions, we can also sort of hear from people if they want to sort of share some lessons they learned from last summer that they're going to be applying to this upcoming summer that might be useful for the rest of the group. So I'm going to take this opportunity to sort of open it up for questions and sharing for the group.
And Mostly the call's unmuted, but if you have trouble when you're trying to speak, you can press *6. I did have to mute a couple of background noises that I heard.
There any questions from the group, or is anyone just wanting to share that they are really excited for this program, or any sort of adaptations they made that work? Because this is it's just sort of a great time to sort of share your perspective on this program from your camp, as we are a group of second-year camps.
The one thing that we did that I thought was really good on one hand, but also I think significantly influenced, not in the best way, the grant-making process, is on the day of our site visits. The theme of the session that I implement this with is called Mitzvah, and there are 10th graders, and they always have gone out into the community to do a hands-on service project. So when we coordinated the site visits, we arranged for the kids to be able to do some type of hands-on work to support the organization as well. And the kids really found that to be very meaningful and very helpful. And it was a nice add-on for it.
Great, thank you. And
it also made them feel better when they didn't fund one of the organizations that they had already given them time.
That's a good point as well. Thank you for sharing. And Stacey, I know at Capital Camps also your teens do a decent amount of service as well in the CIT age, correct?
Yeah, so actually our CIT cohort starts off their summer experience with almost a week-long service trip, and last year they went to Long Island to do some Hurricane Sandy relief with an organization that I highly recommend called the Jewish Disaster Response Corps. And we are really excited to be working with them again this year to plan another experience. And what they do about 5 days of service, and then we give them a little final night in New York by taking them to go see a matinee and have a kosher dinner out. And it was a really fun thing that they got to do last year, and they really built a lot of their Camp Philanthropy. They built a lot of their Teen Foundation experience from that trip. And we started having these conversations while we were in New York. And so it was really nice to be able to follow through with that.
Wonderful. Great. We're hearing a lot that teens, when they get to that age, are giving back in a variety of ways, and doing both hands-on tikkun olam through service learning, through social action, and then philanthropy as well really sets them up to come home as seeing themselves as real change agents in this world.
That was the big lesson that we kind of showed people, that there are lots of ways to give and to make a difference. And a lot of these, they don't really realize that they can give time and they can give, by financial means. So it's really nice that we can start to expose them to that.
Great. Wonderful things happening with the LITs at Capital Camps. Anyone else want to share or have a last question? Okay, great. Well, I do want to thank everybody for their time. I just want to do a quick reminder for your letters of agreement between your camp and the Jewish Funders Network. I actually have many of them in already. You can either scan it and email it to me, to andrew@jtfn.org. If you're into using your fax machine, you can use your fax machine and send it to that number there. Or you can send it by mail if you are really excited about mailing things to our address here in New York. Again, those are due by the end of this month, April 30th. Again, thank you for taking the time to review this program and to understand your role as the administrator in it. I know that once the summer educator is selected and we start connecting with that person, that this program will really start to take form at your camp. But it's never too early to start thinking about how this program can have the largest impact on its teens it can. As you can see, we are available if you need anything at all. So please be in touch. You have our email addresses and our phone number. And again, thanks everybody for coming on the call today. And we look forward to continuing to work with you to make your second summer of Camp Philanthropy your best summer of Camp Philanthropy.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And Guy, are you still on the call? Naomi?
Yeah, it's just me.
All right. He didn't miss a ton.
All right. I mean, we'll just send it to him.
Okay, I'm stopping the recording.